Hi, welcome back to AATV Live. I'm your host, Tom Anvil Hibberd, from the workshop in the garden room, which means there may well be some noise and some distractions. Probably get invaded by greyhounds and the family having dinner at some point. So, welcome to AATV Live on a Wednesday at 7:30. This will probably be around the time we carry on doing live streams when we do them. We've got a cool subject lined up tonight as myself and my two guests played Airsoft at the weekend, and we're going to talk to you about our experiences and what we thought about playing Airsoft in the current crisis. So let's say hello to my guests, Gadge and Phil from Clearwater Airsoft. How you doing, guys?
Really good, Tom. Good to be back.
So let's start off with the traditional question of what is in your cup, Gadge?
Right, I'm not going on the beer today. It's a nice cup of Rioja or Rioja, depending on how cultured you are.
Are you gonna venture a guess at the name, Gadge?
Baron de Ley Reserva Embotelado en la propiedad estate bottled Rioja denominación de origen calificada.
I think you failed your Spanish GCSE.
Right, I didn't do Spanish. It's shit in it.
Phil, what's in your cup today, mate?
I have blueberry gin, and it's very nice.
Excellent. I'm on Brewdog's Punk IPA. That's what they had it was cold in the fridge at Co-op. Other supermarkets are available when I popped down there earlier. Okay, so who's joining us in the comments? So we've got Just to This, Mark, Delta Hotel Airsoft, English Kiwi, Sean Samurai, Rack and Load, JJ Moore. My video quality is insane. Yes, yeah, someone's complimenting me on my video quality. It's all about expensive camera lenses. I think the other guys are using their inbuilt laptop cameras, aren't you? Or,
yeah.
That's what makes the difference. And lighting. I've got a light over here as well.
Got a few on Facebook as well.
So before we get going, something I want to talk about. So I'm launching a Patreon for AATV Live, and for AATV as well. The reality is I've been self-funding this project for the last 2 and a bit years, and fundamentally I'm kind of running out of money, really. And I'd love to stay completely independent with my reviews and my gear reviews and my testing and what I do for you guys. And really, one of the only ways of doing that and bringing you some new cool gun reviews and everything else is starting a Patreon. So I was a little bit hesitant about this because I don't really like asking people for money, but everyone else seems to do it on the interwebs. So I thought I'd ask you guys. So every bit of money that you guys contribute to the Patreon will go on Airsoft gear and Airsoft reviews. I may occasionally try and buy a bit of kit to make the photography better. Someone's already commented on that, or the sound better, but I'll make sure I consult with the Patreons before every purchase so you know exactly what we're going to get. And if I'm going to do a gun review and there's a few that are available, I'll consult with the Patreons as well, so you guys get to choose what we're going to review next. So if you get a bit of time, please head over to there. If you can support us, that's great. If you can't, just a like and a subscribe and a share is all I can ask from you, really. Thanks very much. So, yeah. So Patreon, we're AATV on Patreon. Super easy to find. And I'll head back to our guests. So again, on today's stream, we are going to talk about getting back into Airsoft post-lockdown and during the current crisis. We'll call it crisis or the Rona for a little bit. Because all three of us have played at the same event at the weekend. And it was everyone's first time back on the Airsoft field. Airsoft. Okay, excellent. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a chat about our experience. So we played at West Midlands Airsoft, the Fob in the UK, which is a woodland site. So what did you guys think of the physical measures that the site organiser had put in place? Gadge, do you want to talk about a few bits and bobs?
Because to be honest, even before I said, look, do you want to go and give it a go? I did a bit of a recce the week before, and I thought there's been a lot of sites opening up, a lot of flack for doing it too early. Are the guys at West Mid's going to do it well? And I thought that even queuing up, the queue was marked off in areas. There was sanitizer everywhere. It was well signposted about social distancing. Just looking at it from the start of the site, you could see that from just getting in there, they've been taking sensible measures.
So they asked everyone to bring, number one, they asked everyone to bring a waiver with them, so that there was no lack of, I think it was only 2 people that managed to forget
Yeah, shut up.
Which two was that? Maybe.
It wasn't me.
Might have been me.
But virtually everyone, there was 80 players on site. Virtually everyone brought a waiver with them, so that's just one less bit of handling the organisers have to do. So they had a one-way system in and out of the site in the car park, and which was also marked at 2 metre intervals, which was brilliant. Any other kind of remarks just about signing on?
Yeah, I mean the very fact that you took the waiver with you, so you were literally only at the desk for a few seconds really to either pay the final amount, which was contactless, which is great, so you didn't have to worry about handing cash over, and then you were escorted to an area which would be your area for the day by one of the marshals, so that they kept people segregated in the safe zone as well.
And those areas were marked off as well, which is quite cool.
They were. They're all marked off.
Lines,
And there was sanitizer at regular intervals, and there were signs advising social distancing, and they put limits on, only 2 people into the toilets, and they closed off cubicles and taped off urinals for the gents so that you couldn't have people next to each other. I think, they did literally everything that they could do, and they even changed how you got into the game site. So there was a one-way system. You'd never have people passing each other coming in and out.
I mean, one thing I liked as well, even for the higher guns, so obviously we kind of know the guy who runs the higher thing, Joe, he's a great guy, but I brought my gun, I went to show him, I said, Joe, have a look at this, and he's like, I'm just going to put a fresh pair of gloves on before I handle your wrist. Because even though he knows me, there's no exceptions. It was like, I'm going to do this safely. If I'm going to handle every single player's gun with a fresh pair of gloves, you're no exception. And I really respected that.
And he cleaned all of them down, and he would put a cleaned tag on them for the higher guns. And I think one of the great things that he did was normally he rents, face masks and goggles, but he was selling them at virtually below cost price, so the players didn't have to,
Right, I didn't know that. That's awesome. He also had a one-way system on.
He did.
He had a barrier on the one-way system to get to his.
But I just thought that was a really nice touch, that rather than people having to either risk renting something that somebody's just been breathing heavily through or sweating all over.
Oh, it's just not. You'd have to leave it for 3 days, wouldn't you? And all sorts of things.
He was selling them at a really low price.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I remember looking on several internet debates about whether it's safe to start or not. And people were saying, it's all very well social distancing in the game, but that safety equipment and higher equipment is going to have to be sterilised before each player. And actually making it almost owned by the player is a much better way of doing things when I think about it.
I mean, Joe's always been really, shit hot on the cleaning side of stuff anyway. He's always cleaned the kit, and he's just more fastidious about it and more thorough than he was. So, I think even if he hadn't changed his protocols, it still would have been fine, because I know I've seen how he does it for
he's been double cleaning. He was going to double clean stuff and everything. I think he's decided to be even. I think that's great. I think there was a number of measures that really quite impressed me. I mean, Gadge and me had travelled up together because we're bubbling, because we do so much together anyway. But we were still asked if we were in. We were clearly mates, but we were still asked, had we arrived together, were we in a bubble together? Otherwise, they'd have put us in 2 separate bits. So it was really impressive.
What was also nice was that the players did actually stick to it for the most part. From what I saw, people did stick to their areas.
Yeah, very much. So wasn't that normal to and fro, sort of like kind of almost pub type atmosphere you get at a normal safe zone, where people are looking at each other's guns, chatting about the last game, handling each other's kit? Actually, people did stick in their own little sort of like bunker, so to speak.
Yeah, mind you, when we were all talking, I did notice that there was at least 1.5 meters between us. So, we were on one side of the table each, so we weren't.
We have learned, haven't we?
It's just got sort of conditioned into us now.
It, really?
It's funny. I got home, and I was socially distancing from the people in my household because I got it into my head just for a few hours to be super careful. So I got home and I was like backing off while the kids were walking past, and I was like, I don't actually need to do that, do I? It's really, but it's just like, it just gets into your head. Okay, so that was really cool. I thought it was one of the things I want to compliment them on also is cleaning the toilets, because the site owner, Paul, bless him, bless him, was sanitising the toilets in between each game.
Yeah.
So he must have been in there probably 5 or 6 times during the day. Easily to clean the. I'm assuming you clean the female toilets when all the girls are out as well. But yeah, amazing. Because you have to, don't you? It's one of those. It's just one of those things.
I think another thing we missed out actually, like also impressed me, is, and I'm sure many sites are doing this, but they reduced their number cap by about a third to make sure there was space. And I guess with sites struggling, they've been in lockdown for a long time. It's very easy to go, do you know what? I need every penny I can get. But actually voluntarily reducing your income from your players by a third to make sure they're safe is the right thing to do.
Yeah, and they also built new setup tables in the safe zone so that people could spread out, which is a cost. And one thing I have seen with a few places, and it's not just limited to Airsoft, I like mountain biking, and they've almost put in a surcharge on top of their normal fee to make up for the lower numbers. And Paul didn't do that. The game fee didn't change.
I think it's also fair to say that obviously we're going to reference one site in particular. It's the one site we've been back to. But from what I'm looking at on the internet, it does seem that this is actually not a unique thing. This is what most responsible sites are doing, and there's very few exceptions.
So we've had a couple of comments in from people. One from Mark Courier, Thin Brown Line. He says he did very similar when he got home after marshalling for the first time. So talking about social distancing, and he also walked in straight away and washed his clothes.
Yeah, I did that, but it was really quite hot and humid, so I was just a big hot, sweaty mess.
An English Kiwi says, I think social distancing is so ingrained in him now that he gets annoyed when people don't socially distance on the TV. But it's true, isn't it? You start getting, it just becomes the new, and it's going to be the new. We'll talk about it in a bit.
Now.
It's going to be the new normal for a long time, so it's one of those things people are just going to have to get used to. Okay, so is there anything else kind of physical measures we can think about before we move on?
Had the one thing, I think it's worth saying that they had the screens up on the where you signed in, which was good, and you could still buy gas and bottles of pop or whatever, which were sealed, but they didn't provide a lunch. But they were very clear about that from the outset, that they wouldn't be doing lunch, so that minimised any contact and chances of contamination.
Yeah, Gadge and I took. Gadge and I took. Because we're stupid, we took some lovely rations and a jet boil. But I don't really get the chance to use it very much, so I quite like it. But actually, modern British rations are really good. I had quite nice tuna chili pasta. You had curry, didn't you, Gadge?
Chicken tikka masala. It was lovely. The only thing I did miss is the tea and coffee, and I could have brought a brew pack, but quite right, they got rid of the tea urn because that is a massive social hub, like the water cooler in an office, isn't it?
Yeah, I had a flask of coffee I bought with me, which was great. So, but I think it's just adjusting, being sensible and adjusting to that.
I think as it goes on, we'll start to see some of those measures relaxed slightly. I don't think we'll probably see that before the end of this year. And in all fairness, I'm not sure I'd want to go to a site where it started to relax things too quickly either.
So Rage of File asked, did we have to wear face masks? No. I was a little bit taken aback, but I knew that from the briefing. I think the safe zone is very, very open though. It's not though it's covered. It's kind of a lean-to.
If we can add to that, Tom, I did actually speak to the site owners about this, and they said at the moment, because the government regulations and restrictions with being open air venue, they're not enforcing it. But they said if the government did advise that face masks had to be worn in those sort of environments, they would definitely start providing them.
Well, I know he's going to do it at his indoor site.
Yeah.
Yes,
so high command, it's going to be face masks the whole time.
I think inside it's a much more contained environment, obviously, and you can't really escape from other people's exhaled breath and whatnot, so it makes sense in that environment. But there was a breeze, it was open air. So
Sean's come in with a typical Sean comment. The last time we went softing, social distancing was easy as he didn't want to get that close to people due to the BO from people wearing heavy kit in 30-degree heat anywhere. Thanks, Sean. Comment. But yeah, I can. I can agree. I mean, I was just wearing a fairly lightweight smock, and I was sweating in 20 degrees, so I'm sure not that pleasant.
I have to say, I get home sometimes and I don't want to be near me.
My kit was honking.
Cool. Okay, so let's move on to changes to. So there were some changes to gameplay and rules. What did we think about those? I think there's some pretty sensible things that were going on. Yeah, go for it, Phil.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think, obviously the big one, I suppose, that a lot of sites will have is the medic rules. So the medic rule was suspended and there were respawn points, which makes a lot of sense. You can't socially distance and have somebody touch you for 10 seconds. It just completely flies in the face of all reason.
Or be another face.
Yeah. And one thing that I wasn't sad to see gone was knife kills. I mean, I don't go to Airsoft to try and knife people. I go there to shoot at people. I wouldn't be at all bothered if that never returned. But yeah, so they got rid of any sort of contact, that doesn't have to be in the game. So
let's take the opportunity. Let's take the opportunity to talk about knife kills a bit, on a bit of a segue. We had a bit of a chat in another group today. I would also be very happy for knife kills to just disappear from normal skirmishing completely. I don't see it as necessary or needed, and people.
If people just used a knife, it wouldn't be quite so bad. But then they get a little bit sort of John Rambo with it as well, and think, you sneak up behind me and drag it across the throat. Or worse, they use things that aren't even a knife. And I'm not going to go into, the exact things, but things that you wouldn't normally.
Massaging devices.
Yeah, look at that video today of the guy getting a knife kill by throwing a training knife at someone's head. Now, that might be cool ninja skills, and kudos to that, but it's bloody stupid, because if that knocked his eyebrow off at the same time that someone comes around the corner and shoots him in the head, that's a casualty job.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's not even just it's just ridiculous. And some of these training knives, even though they're rubber, they're not light.
Mike, I use a cold steel. I've got a cold steel training knife that I used to done a bit of HEMA with and other stuff, and that I have carried just to fill out. Almost, I think we did a video. Gadge. And I use it to fill my bayonet frog out because I've got one on, so it needs something in it. I think in 6 years of owning that, I think I've had one kill just because some bloke was poking his arm around a corner, and I thought, rather than shooting him, I thought I'd just tap him on the forearm. But that's it. Yeah. But I am sick of people with pink massaging devices and and furry dinosaurs. And
LARP swords
and katanas, thinking it's hilarious. And also, I mean, Gadge is the same. You've done LARP, and people tap you with LARP. People tapping you with LARP swords.
Someone paddles a LARP weapon at me. I'm not taking it. I'm sorry. You can think it's like a real sword, or you can bugger off.
Yeah. So
I've got a Benchmade training knife, and I've super glued it into the scabbard. Yeah. Because it's just for looks on the kit.
We've done stuff with real bayonets for film sim, and we wire them in.
Yeah.
So it looks right, but there's absolutely no chance of it even falling out.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
But I mean, essentially, I don't think it made any worse of a game for getting rid of knife kills.
No.
In fact, I've only ever seen knife kills cause arguments usually. Whereas actually being hit by a BB, it's fairly obvious you've been done,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it only takes one BB at 3 feet away to shoot someone. And you can shoot them in the back or in the bum if it's funny, or in the boot. It's really not difficult to be sensible.
No. So it wasn't a game killer, was it?
It made no difference at all. And I mean, not having medics was a bit different. I think people were just a bit more cautious because they had a longer walk back to respawn, which probably actually possibly improved gameplay because people were just a bit more sensible about it.
Yeah. People were a bit more selective about moving up, and people were putting down cover fire so that people could move. And I think it prolonged some of the games because they were being more careful.
I thought it
worked.
It's one of the game rule changes to a degree that happened before the game even started, and I was quite impressed with this, is that the actual mission brief was done in the safe area.
Yes, good point, Gadge.
People weren't huddled around a marshal being told what they had to do. And I think it made everyone listen a bit more as well, because they weren't fiddling with the guns and test firing it into a tree or whatever. They were actually going, the sooner I listen to this and know what's going on, the sooner I can get playing.
Again, I'd be quite happy if that's carried on. I get that sometimes I think also for me they did shorter. Actually, the first game was quite long.
It's about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was going to say they did short games, but they didn't really.
No.
Okay, Robbie Hales makes a good point, Tom.
I'll put it up again.
Chat. So he's saying at Gunman Airsoft they've changed the way they play because of the way of props, and we noticed that as well. So, for example, in the game rules, we were told in one game if there was an object to be moved, it was moved by a marshal.
Yeah.
So it wasn't players getting the sweaty mitts on it and fighting over it. You said, right, our team's in control of this, and the marshal assigned to that prop moved it for you, which again is a big deviation from normal play.
And also, as well, on that same point, there was one game we did where we had to move posts, and it was a case that the other team couldn't move your post. If you were killed carrying it, it stayed where it was, but they couldn't then move it back or take it somewhere else. So it was only one team, which again, it's limiting it to maybe 30, 40 people, but it is still limiting the number of people who will come into contact.
Yeah, they did a mission which I didn't play, which I don't know if you did, Phil, with the bombs later on, and then they were very much marshal controlled. Yeah. When they're moving around the site, which I thought made a lot of sense. If you're gonna, as Robbie Hale said, if you're going to use props, they need to be in control of a marshal, so they know who's got in contact with those.
Yeah. And they're not cheap either.
Just looking at Martin's comment about they favour younger players who can run forward and back.
Well, I think we're going to get onto that, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to get onto that a bit later because we're feeling the effects somewhat. So how did you think the players dealt with it all? Because I think the organizer can be as responsible as they need to be, or above and beyond the Call of Duty. But
it's a mixed bag, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, for example, I wasn't there at this game. I remember talking to one of the marshals, and they said that in the past they've said to people, "Be socially distant. Do X, do Y, do Z." These guys want to take a team photo, and they said, "Look, you can't do that, guys, because it's going to be a group of you all clustered together." They eventually relented and said, "Yeah, no team photo." And as soon as the marshals weren't looking, they went and took a picture of them all with their arms around each other.
Yeah, in the woods.
Yeah. Which, there's no accounting for stupidity. You can't be on top of someone all the time.
No, I think that as a site, they absolutely went above and beyond. It wasn't just the bare minimum in place. It was considerably more, and they were vigilant on it the whole day. But yeah, as players, we can't just accept that it's the site owner's responsibility and solely theirs. We are just as culpable for breaching socially distancing rules and the regulations that are in place, and we have to accept as players that responsibility, not just for ourselves. In fact, not even for ourselves, but for people.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in a bit later on.
Yeah.
See, I saw good examples either way, I think, guys. So at some points I saw, as you both did, guys going, "We're moving forwards now. Do you want to occupy the bunker in a second?" Rather than trying to get into a bunker. Equally,
we had a bit of a queue on one foxhole.
Yeah, equally, I did see people getting carried away and stacking up before an objective without remembering, because they're so used to playing, for like 3 or even 10 years, that actually the way to carry an objective is to get maximum momentum, maximum force. So when we were doing that flag movement game, and it was limited posts to hide behind, you would have 2 or 3 people ready to push forwards at the same time. And I bet if you said to them, "Guys, social distance," they'd go, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, it's very easy, isn't it? As soon as the PBs start flying, and as soon as you're back to an environment that you remember from prior Rona, it's very. And I don't really blame those guys either. I mean, I was photographing at one point, and I just had a couple of words with people. I just went,
Do you know what they were like?
So go, Phil.
Tactically as well, if you're all moving up in a line and you're 2 meters apart, there's less chance of all of you getting slotted if you get ambushed as well.
One burst.
So, a bit more realistic, isn't
it? So even just by that, you're actually playing a little bit more strategically because you've got the spacing in a line of patrol line or whatever.
Robbie says,
especially moving through the woods.
So Robbie Hales from Gunman again says the first few weeks that they had to remind people a few times, but since then the players have been fantastic, and they're really understanding that everything has to be done differently. I think it's one of those things. People are just going to have to get used to it.
Yeah. think the last thing any of us want to see is that the government then start reintroducing more stricter guidelines, and then meaning that we go back to not being able to play at all. So I'd like to think that the majority of the community are like, great, we can play again, but it's going to be different. And if we don't stick to those rules, they'll just stop us playing.
I think we've got an odd hobby in a way, because I remember having this debate with someone about, if they can play golf, why can't we play airsoft? And I was trying to explain to them, yes, in airsoft we can stay 5 meters apart and not do knife kills, etc. But the actual infrastructure of playing airsoft in between games, with the queuing up for food, drinks, even checking in, going to the toilet, handing in hire kit, is so much more physical contact intensive than, say, golf, where you turn up with your own kit and you go around in twos.
Well, the clubhouse on our local golf course is still shut.
Yeah.
You know, people basically just hand out, show their card to someone at a window.
Yeah,
and that's it.
I mean, you could have 2 people on a tee, and it could easily be 2 meters apart, and the next 2 people could be 180 yards away.
Yeah. But we have equipment. So, for example, in an extreme case, I'm pretty sure no one's going to get any infection by doing this. But let's imagine I'm sweating and breathing heavily, climbing up the ladder of a fort, and someone runs behind me, and they're not wearing gloves, and they haven't got a face mask, and they're touching all those things I've been perspiring and breathing over. Potentially, there's a risk, albeit a small one there. But that's very much the core nature of what we do. It's clambering over obstacles. It's sliding into bunkers and stuff, We don't play sterile games. Well, not many of us play sterile and speed soft fields, which would be a lot better, because really no one's touching the obstacles there. They're just to hide behind.
No, they do hug them a lot.
Strange. A little bit, yeah. So fair play, bad example.
Strange people. Robbie, actually, it's really interesting having you on. If you're doing anything different to what we're talking about, or you've got any kind of suggestions or things you guys are doing, please pop them in the comments, and I'll put them up on the stream. It's really interesting. Steve's asked again, do you guys have to wear proper face coverings as well as mesh face masks? No, we didn't. I think they're following government.
Next time I go, though, I think I will.
You think you will? I think I might as well. I've a little bit. I think particularly when the shop rules coming in, isn't it? So it kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
I mean, I was wearing my Delta mic snood with the mesh faceplate in it, but that's not really proper protective cover.
Yeah, I think I would probably feel a bit more.
Yeah,
loving he also says love the beards, so
got to have a beard.
Thanks, Steve. It kind of helps.
Shock trap.
Yeah. I think
he's making me a mask. So next time I go, even for woodland games, I think between games, if I'm in the safe zone, I'll wear a mask. But it's not because I felt unsafe. Just need to make that clear. I didn't feel unsafe at all.
I didn't feel unsafe. I think there's so much space
doing it
around
more for other people.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on from that to what did you guys enjoy the most about playing again? Gadge, would you like to lead us off? It's probably going to be very similar, but
to be honest, right, it was a bit of a weird one, because we normally play in very modern, high-tech kit, and we decided purposely to play in really retro 90s British Army kit. So I actually enjoyed getting back to the grassroots of Airsoft. I enjoyed playing again, but it was also nice to play in a DPM jacket and trousers, an old chest rig that holds 6 mags and a water bottle, and an M16. And I didn't have a red dot, and I didn't have a fancy laser or anything like that on me.
Just used iron sights, didn't you, Gadge?
Yeah, iron sights. It was purely like, I can hit 100 metres with iron sights, apparently. No, I can't really. But I used iron sights, and I actually enjoyed stripping it back down. It was almost like restarting Airsoft all over again. And I really enjoyed the experience of you and I sneaking about, being more recce and hiding and waiting and a bit less direct action. It was nice to be back on site, but it was actually more important to actually understand why I love Airsoft.
Yeah. See, Phil, have you got any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but during lockdown, I may or may not have purchased 1 or 2 items, or more than 1 or 2 items. But it was nice to be able to use them, and see that actually I'd bought the right thing for me, which was great.
So what were you playing with? Just because I want to wind you up.
I had my new Maruri 416 and my new Warrior LPC plate carrier, and I did have my new Scar as well, but I didn't get a chance to use it this weekend. So yes, I'm half and half now between Maruis and Ergs. But for me, the best thing was I haven't seen face to face really you guys or some of the guys at West Mid since the beginning of the year.
That's a big pull for me as well.
I've really, really missed that. That's my social outlet.
Yeah.
And I've got some really, really good friends, and I've just not been able to see them. So it was almost teary. It was really nice just to see everybody again. So I think for me that was probably one of the biggest factors that got me to go along. Really, it was to see my chums.
I think, in fairness, we have been criticised, and probably quite rightly in the past, that we are a group of middle-aged men ranting about how they do airsoft. But at our age, actually,
how dare they?
A big part of airsoft actually is that excuse to get out and be social with your mates, because we've all got families, we've got commitments. It's not as easy to just go out to the pub as you could in your 20s or 30s. You can't play football on the weekend because you're physically not fit enough to do that sort of thing. So actually, having a bimble in the woods and then an half-hour chat about it is fantastic.
I think after Saturday, saying that we're not fit enough for that as well.
Yeah, so Robbie's come back and said what they're doing is assigning people a group letter on arrival before they park their cars, and then each group is called through into separately for signing in chrono, that's a really cool idea.
Good idea.
I really like that. Yeah, might even I mentioned that to Paul actually, and then they can call through groups for chrono rather than. So they're saying it's adding about 30. Yeah, so it's adding about 30 minutes to the whole arrival process, but it's been working really well. That sounds like a really sensible idea, actually, Robbie. Yeah. I'm sure you guys are communicating on the kind of people that don't know, there is a national kind of site owners network, and they do actually talk to each other.
Yeah. Although the chrono situation or station was moved from where it usually is.
Good point, actually.
And there was an awful lot of space, so you didn't have to ever get near. Even if there were 10 people, you never had to get closer than 2 meters on Saturday. So they really had covered all the bases.
To be honest,
but maybe having it as a group, so maybe 5 people at a time, so it's very tightly controlled. It is a good. It's
I think that might be
a good idea.
I actually thought that one-way system improved the site. To be honest,
it did.
It's
funny. A lot of this stuff really actually improves the way sites work and flow works and everything. And people are just there's much less dicking around in the. Do you know what I mean? People are just they just get their shit sorted a lot quicker.
Yeah.
There's less talking, there's less messing around, there's less everything. There's certainly a lot less talking in the safety brief, which is noticeable.
But that feeling, and I'm sure you guys get it as well. Maybe not, I don't know. But there was that sense of camaraderie, and I can't really explain it very well, but you know what I mean.
I do know. Yeah.
Still there. It was still there.
To me, for me, the most important thing was meeting my friends.
Yeah.
And what I've done a lot of, this is our 20th live stream, so I would never have done live streams if it wasn't for Rona. Something I'm actually very grateful for, and actually I'm very grateful that the channel is significantly twice the size that it was before. It's quite amazing for me. But I've not seen a lot of guys for 4 months, and it was lovely to see everyone. And actually I've had issues with airsoft skirmishing in general, and that I didn't enjoy it. And I've had to work out ways of enjoying it, and ways of enjoying it are effectively dressing up in clothes that I want to wear. Almost not necessarily living history, but let's just put this stuff on and just see what it's like to move and fight in. I find that really interesting. And then see and then tit about in the woods with my mates. I think that's super important.
I think that's the best description of airsoft for us guys. Yeah. We just like to tit about in the woods with our mates.
Yeah. I mean, classic example would be Tom and I, for the first game of the day, we decided to play quite slow and steady. We were actually enjoying the patrolling, regardless of having a contact. And at one point, we basically went to ground and we controlled two movement routes by looking in different directions, shot a few of their snipers trying to get across sneakily, ambushed a few of their other guys, accidentally shot some of our own team, my fault, who were going the other direction. But the whole point being that we could play airsoft at our pace, and it was quite nice. We didn't feel like you were being into a go, go, go kind of situation. It was actually, there was nothing wrong about a 30-minute slow stroll through the woods with your eyes open looking for the enemy.
It's about
practicing. I think the players that go there as well help contribute towards that. You don't have some of these gung-ho heroes who are constantly shouting, push up, go you guys, and issuing orders from the back, and they just stay at the back.
If they've not done Brecon, then they probably shouldn't be shouting orders, should they? Dan Griffith has commented he was the guy on Chrono on Saturday, and he said it was brilliant how the one-way system worked. They really didn't have a load of players all titting about or plunking away while trying to Chrono. You know, it's like everyone's like there's about 20 guys firing their guns before they get to the Chrono station.
I'm just testing my gun. Yeah, 'cause it worked 5 minutes ago, didn't it? Why is it not going to work now?
Yeah. But that is one of the things with the Chrono. You see players all the time. While they're waiting to Chrono, they're just shooting off into bushes, and then as soon as they've Chrono, they just stay there and keep shooting, and you end up with 20 people to the left of the Chrono station. Just, why? Get it chronoed, go back, then you can play a game and you can shoot as much as you want.
No, I think it all worked. I honestly think it all worked a lot better.
I think hats off, definitely.
I think it all worked
to
a lot
Paul
better.
and the staff at FOB. They did a fantastic job.
Okay, so let's get on to probably the meat of today's topic, which is kind of almost the health implications of playing Airsoft. So I'm going to split this into two parts. One is COVID itself, and the other part we'll probably talk about first is personal fitness and injuries, which is relevant to all of us. So let's all say, so my back's gone. Gadge, how are you getting on?
Well, look, because I went on those long recce patrols, I was bent double and crouching and crawling, and I didn't warm up. And after 3 months of not playing and only doing the most basic kind of exercises in the garden or the occasional walk with the dogs, I ended up actually damaging my hamstring to the point where I'm probably not going to be able to play for 2 weeks now. And I thought I might even need surgery on it. It was that painful on Sunday, but it's calmed down a lot since then. But I think it's my fault because I thought, do you know what, I can still do this. I'm not carrying a lot of heavy kit. Let's go for it. Let's push myself. And actually, when you go back into any sport after a prolonged absence, it's foolish not to ease yourself back into it.
I should know better. I'm a qualified triathlon coach.
Yeah, I'm not really qualified in anything.
No, I still got overexcited.
I had legs
and start crawling through bushes.
No, I didn't do that. I did actually lie down a couple of times. I'm not sure if that was strategic or just I had to. But I had legs like a baby deer on Sunday morning coming down the stairs. And as I said to you guys earlier, I had a date on Saturday night, and I was trying not to limp the whole time. So the constant sort of crouching down and standing up.
Quick bit to the comment section. If any of you guys have played, how did you get on with playing after 3 months of I don't know what activity guys have been up to, but 3 guys are not playing
even
Airsoft.
For guys, even for guys of our age, 3 months off. What we think, what we're used to doing in Airsoft, and I don't run around like the young guns. I tactically bimble everywhere pretty much. But during the course of a normal year playing, it doesn't really have that much of an impact on me the next day. But 3 months off, Jesus Christ, did I feel it? Yeah. Oh my God, the shoulder hurt. My arms hurt from carrying the rifle.
Well, for me, Airsoft is my workout. It's my gym. If I don't go climbing, I play Airsoft. And it's one of the reasons why I normally wear a weighted plate carrier and a real weight helmet, because that actually burns a lot. I'm not doing it because I think I'm going to get hit by a real rifle round, so I'm not a knobhead. I just do it because I actually want to push myself and go, can I carry the same weight that a real soldier does, and can I go through that endurance?
I was doing all right before lockdown with my 7 kilo plates, and I am not putting my 7 kilo plates on at the moment.
Exactly.
I found the lightest training plates I had in my garage and used them at the weekend.
Yeah, but equally, I think I can't be sure because they weren't testing then, but around about April, I'm pretty sure I got the illness quite badly, and it damaged my lungs. And I found that even just going hiking in the hills with my dogs, I'm out of breath faster than I used to be.
I'm going to come on to that in a bit.
Yeah.
Rob Hales again. Thanks, Robbie. Definitely seeing players puff out a lot earlier than before, as they've had no medic rule, and because they're using a respawn point, people have to do a lot more walking. So by about 2 p.m, most of them are completely wrecked.
Yeah. I probably walked about 40% more than I normally would do.
I mainly lay down in the bush.
I checked my little pedometer on my phone, and by lunchtime I definitely walked about 40% more than I would have done on a normal skirmish day.
Okay.
But as well, I think I actually played a bit more because it was the first time back. If my back lets me get to lunchtime without stopping, then that's a really good day for me.
I agree with you there, Phil, because like my leg went after that first long game in the morning, and I actually originally thought I'd just put got a muscle cramp, and I thought I'll just run through it. And I played that second flag grab game, and I shouldn't really have done that, but I thought I don't want to lose any of this game time because I've not played for 3 months. So I don't want to sit in the safe area until lunchtime when I can talk to my mates. And there was a definite kind of feeling that I don't want to miss a second of this.
No, you wanted to get maximum enjoyment and time on the field playing out of the day.
Yeah.
And in general, that worked really well because I know in some games I've been to, after a couple of games, the safe zone's got almost as many people in it as the game zone has. And it affects how the games work. And yeah, there were very few people, apart from maybe us codgers who were knackered, in the safe zone between, during game time.
I think it's probably worth taking some water out onto the field if people don't normally, because you won't be able
possibly some ibuprofen gel and a paramedic.
So we've got a couple of old boys just like us in the comment section. Rager Files 42 plays Sunday. His body hates him. And Brad is 42 as well, and his son convinced me to play an outdoor game in the rain and mud on Saturday, and he's still not right. So yep.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know what, though? I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
And Robbie says because they've been running Friday, Saturday and Sunday, he's averaging about 30k. I'm choosing that steps a weekend. So a bit of luck, he'll lose that extra weight from 3 months of baking. Yeah, I'm on a diet at the moment to get rid of my lockdown. I'm doing all right. I've lost about 10 kilos so far, so I'm quite pleased.
Well done, Bob.
More than I pay.
I've actually lost a stone during lockdown. It's been quite good. Who knew the gin diet was?
Just gin.
If you don't eat and just drink gin, Phil. Okay, so let's talk about the Rona, right? And actually the real implications of playing. And this is I know English Kiwi did a episode on this, which I really super agreed with, and I'd kind of like to repeat the message in this one as well. So there's kind of two aspects. There's your own risk, and then there's the risk to the people around you. So what do you guys think about that kind of topic?
I think it's a big thing, and like I said previously, that I will probably next time I go get a mask, but it's not for me. It's for the other people there, because especially at the moment, I know who I've seen.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily know who the people that I see have seen. And I certainly don't know who the guys or girls at Airsoft sites have seen or who they may see. And if there's any chance at all that I could pass on, COVID to somebody who then goes and sees their 90-year-old grandparents and they contract it, I think that's a big thing. And I really do think that, I have scant regard for my own safety, as my mountain biking history has proven in the past, and my hospital records will demonstrate. But when it comes to thinking of other people, that to me is the overriding factor in this crisis, that you can't just think of yourself and your immediate social group or even family. It's you've got to think much, much bigger.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Phil. I think... So somebody mentioned the comment earlier about saying a double thickness snood or a mesh snood would be better than nothing, and actually I think I was pretty irresponsible not wearing a mask, and in future, like yourself, I will. I know that normally, like my mother, who's fairly elderly and has been shielding till recently because she's got a very bad immune system, she only lives about 10 miles away from the site, and normally I go and visit her on the way back, and I made a conscious decision this time not to, because I didn't want to be not shaking hands, like meeting somebody or picking up some kit or touching something.
Yeah, you can't clean down, can you? You can't.
Yeah, exactly. No. Until I'd washed my kit, used hands, had a shower, etc. I didn't want to go anywhere near my mum's house because I'd never forgive myself if she's been shielding for 3 months, having the most boring existence ever, and I give her something that kills her because I decided to go airsofting.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. I think that it's a very, very important thing, and I didn't feel bad that I wasn't wearing a mask, because it's not really been said outdoors that you need to yet. For me, it's a personal decision that I've made that I will do that, because I just think
I'm not critical of the site for not enforcing it.
No, not one bit. And it's not going to impact on me to do it, but I just think as a person, as myself, that's something that I want to do, just to be as cautious as I can be while still enjoying the hobby that I love.
I mean, ironically, none of us have a problem with wearing a mesh lower mask. So there's no problem in putting a paper liner type medical mask underneath that. It's not going to affect the look of what we're doing. It's not going to affect the impression. It's not going to be any less comfortable than wearing a hood or a scarf pulled up. So why not? I mean, like, in retrospect,
that's a good question, actually, Gadge. Would you keep the mask on during games though? Because I don't think I'd play wearing it, because I think it'd probably be soaked in sweat and
yeah, there is that. But then there's always those times where, you know, when we're saying about the heat of the moment and you're going for that objective or that bunker, and you do end up next to proximity. You know, would it be too difficult to play with that one? I don't know. I've not tried it. I don't mind giving it a go.
I don't know. I think though, but you know, by wearing that one that you do have with the mesh, that is still cutting down.
Unless you're wearing, I mean, I'm not going to desperately go into the science, but cloth masks.
95.
Yeah, cloth masks are not going to stop. They're not going to guarantee the stopping of viral transmission. It's just
may limit what actually.
What it's going to do is stop large droplets. And the other thing it does is it stops you touching your mouth.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one of the major things. It stops you touching your mouth and it stops large droplets. And then you get, as Martin's popped out, you potentially get fogging issues, and then people are
taking their eye protection off,
and messing around their eye pro. So there's always a pro and a con with this sort of stuff anyway, isn't it? I think
with the masks, even in game as well, that people will fiddle with them an awful lot if they do get fogging,
and that's what they're saying.
It moves,
and all the guidance is don't touch your mask.
Yeah,
because
especially this weekend, it was so humid. Fogging was an issue anyway, without having anything on your lower face. The amount of times I had to stop, go to ground, and sit completely still for 3 or 4 minutes just so my goggles demisted, because obviously I'm not going to take them off or wipe them or anything, and I didn't want to trudge all the way back to do it. I think. Yeah, it depends on the weather, doesn't it? Sometimes it's a nightmare anyway.
Yeah, I think for me, the most important thing, and Phil's touched on it, the most important thing is to think about who you come into contact with. So it's not necessary, and it's super important to think about not yourself. It's everyone else in your family group or your bubble. Maybe the people you work with. Maybe Bob's like 2 weeks from retirement, and he's 65, 64 years old, and he's a bit vulnerable, and not in the best of health. And you go and play Airsoft, and you may be a asymptomatic carrier, not realise, and then you kill him.
I have heard
that sucks
from somebody who's had that happen. You know, they didn't really feel ill at all. They had a bit of a cough, went home. 6 people, I think it was about that, caught corona at that workplace. 1 died. You know, that's not something that I
wouldn't want to. I mean, it's one of those things you don't know, do you? But I wouldn't want to have that on my conscience. I'm 99.9% sure I had it in March. But I don't know.
Didn't you?
Pretty much, I think so, yeah. So it was unfortunate. And quite frankly, it's completely knackered my health until very recently. I spent about 3 months recovering.
I saw you in May, was it?
Yeah, I couldn't breathe properly.
You were still suffering.
I was wheezing and I couldn't breathe. I had real problems with lungs. At the time, the government advice was, unless you had a temperature and coughing, which I didn't have. Now you look at the symptoms and you're like, we don't know because I've tested negative, but that test was a lot later. But it really sucked. Really sucked, and I wouldn't want people to have that. I couldn't really breathe properly. I was never quite hospital case, but I couldn't really breathe properly for about 2 weeks, and I had real problems with my lungs. And I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk the dogs. I could struggle to walk up the stairs for about 2 months, and I'm only just about back to it now. So it's just even. And that's the other thing I want to talk about is if you're in a high risk group, and that's not necessarily someone with immune problems. I'm 40, if I'm quite honest, overweight. I'm pre-diabetic, and I've had a history of high blood pressure. So I flag loads of those high risk.
You tick lots of boxes.
I tick lots of boxes.
I'm overweight. I have high blood pressure, and it did worry me. It really did worry me. I'm not in a higher risk group as some people, but I have this amazing ability that if I get ill or damage myself, it's never just minor. I always manage to go,
Oh, mate, I was wiped out.
Full bore.
I literally was that far away from going to hospital. I was calling 111. I had a fever at zone 38 for like a day and a half. I've never felt so ill in my life, and the cough lasted forever. And again, like I say, I'm out of breath because I think I've got permanent, well, not permanent, but it's major lung damage. It's going to recover, hopefully.
Yeah, mine's getting better.
I consider myself relatively fit for my age. I'm 45. I'm not, I'm massively overweight, but it still laid me flat for a long time.
So I would have a long think about, if you have any risk factor, long think about whether it's worth it. Because you will invariably come into closer contact with people. No matter how good the organizer is and no matter how good the players are, you're invariably going to come into closer contact with the virus in some form or another than you would do any other place. So you need to have a think about it.
Playing Airsoft, we are putting ourselves at risk. And as you say, the site owners and organisers can do absolutely everything that's humanly possible. They can go above and beyond government recommendations, and so can the players. But there was always that risk that you could still catch it.
Yeah.
Whatever you do. And that's something that only each individual can decide for themselves. Is that risk worth a day's pew-pew?
So I think the question we all asked ourselves before was, do we think it's the right time for sites to be opening now? I mean, do we think it should have been another month or two? I know this whole crisis has essentially killed some smaller sites. It's killed some stores. I know I work in the airsoft industry, and I've seen the damage it's done. Through people not playing, so they're not. And weirdly, people have bought more kit, I think, because they're not playing and they're bored. But if you're a site owner who's relying on 50 people a month, for 50 people a week to come in minimum, and I can see why you'd want to open your site as soon as possible, but you've got to ask the question, even if you do everything you can do as a site owner, is it still too early?
I think some sites definitely went too soon. When the government sort of said you can have 6 people in your garden, and they interpreted that as 80 people on an airsoft site. And in all fairness, the community was pretty quick in expressing its opinions on that decision.
Yep.
And there were a few sites who really didn't cover themselves in glory. And I'm not going to name names.
There'll be a few sites I will have no interest of supporting or being involved with.
There's a few more on my list of sites I'm never going to play at.
Yep.
And I'm sure they don't give a flying.
I'm sure they don't care at all. But
no,
it's fine.
But I won't be going there. And if anybody I know says, "Oh, what do you reckon? Should we go there?" I would say no, because they don't have your best interests at heart.
Yeah, I think one of the things is there are always some sites, and we've known all those ones that play loose and fast with the rules, and are like,
they did anyway, didn't they? With like FPS limits.
Dave, I'm not going to chrono him because Dave's a regular. It's like the fact that Dave's shooting the equivalent of 5.56 is irrelevant because he's one of their mates. We all know sites like that, but I think that it's probably worth, if you are going to start playing, maybe going the week beforehand as a site recce and seeing what the measures in place are. I know I did.
Yeah.
And say, am I comfortable with this level of safety measures put in place, or do I think this is too risky?
Facebook hasn't been great for airsoft, with how they are about rifts and firearms and so on. But if it's not possible to do that recce, say, for example, Gadge, which is a very good idea, if you've got the opportunity to do that, then I think it's great to do that. But you can ask people who've been quite easily.
You can read.
On
most
Facebook.
Responsible sites will put a full list of what they're expecting and what they're going to do, and you can get pretty sure you can get a really good idea of the level of safety that they've gone to from their wave or just from their website. And
there's 3 sites that I would regularly go to because they're close to me, and one of them is I've played there for over 20 years. All of them have very, very similar measures in place, and they're enforced. And I think that's the main thing, that it might look great on a website that they're going to do all these things, but in practice, If they don't, then I guess you just vote with your feet. Don't go. But the sites that opened early, hopefully they're regretting that decision and they are being sensible now. And the sites that have recently started, like West Midlands, they didn't open until I think it was a week ago. And, they made sure everything was as squared away as could possibly be. And I know several other sites that have done the same. They're the sort of sites that you need to go and visit. And I think it's really important that as a community, as players, we do that now, because let's face it, as Gadge has said, there's many that have gone to the wall. There's shops that have gone to the wall. If they're enforcing all the regulations and keeping it as safe as possible as they conceivably can, and the players are working with those rules, then it's a good thing to support the sites now, but only if they are sticking to the guidelines. Because they need it. Let's face it. There
is a certain point where it's just going to have to happen, or it's just going to disappear.
Yeah.
So we've got to be somewhat.
It's very, very easy to imagine that if it carried on much longer, we could have 50% of the sites that we take for granted just not being there.
Cool. I think we're kind of getting towards the end of the live stream. If anyone in the comments has some questions for the guests or me, far away in the next couple of minutes.
There's a quick one, Tom, from Steve G, who wants to know if they did temperature checks on site. Now, they didn't on this one, but having spoken to site owner, he actually wants to invest in a temperature gun because he thinks it was a sensible measure.
Yeah, definitely do it before you put all your kit on, because otherwise probably all would have been over.
Failed miserably.
39 degrees, I've not even moved yet.
With proper PPE and not being a dickhead, you should be relatively safe. And it makes a good point. It makes a good point about balancing the effects to your psychological well-being. That you can't, because a lot of people makes them very happy, and there's a certain point about your mental health, about doing activities which make you happy, and that's super important.
That's a huge part.
Speaking of someone who has mental health issues, it's a big deal.
Our actual close-knit social group, some of the regular live stream people, we all talk to each other, so we all know each other through this sport, or hobby sport, call it what you will. And even in Beeston, my closest friends in the local area are airsofters. We have a little mini team of 4 or 5 of us, and everybody, I know them, they all live in the area. It feels like an honorary member, to be honest, but you're in a different town. But the point being is that it is my social identity as well as my physical activity, to a great degree,
Yeah.
No, I'd agree. I think more people probably know me as an airsofter than anything else.
Dan asked what they did about toilets. So they blocked off. So there was limited access. I think it was 1 female allowed into the toilets at any one time, and 2 males, and they reduced the capacity of the toilets themselves, and they were distanced.
Yeah, they shut off one of the cubicles in the gents, and they covered up one of the urinals, so you could only have.
And as we talked about earlier, the site owner was in there with a mop and some cleaning fluid about 7 times during the day. Bless him.
Pretty much whenever there was nobody around.
As soon as people went out, he was in there cleaning.
Yeah,
I
think that what really, really for me sums it up is probably the golden rule of airsoft: don't be a dick.
Yeah.
And that really is so relevant right now. Don't be a dick.
Right. Martin says he's definitely missing the lads more than the pew pew.
Yeah. And to be fair, Tom, we found that one of the reasons why we wanted to do the live stream, well, you did the live stream and I wanted to join in on it, is because it lets you be involved in the banter of airsoft. In a very real way. It's almost like a pub chat, isn't it? And
it very much replaced the pub chat for me. And the kind of that sitting around in the safe zone having a natter that I missed as well. I'll carry on, I think the live streams won't be as regular as they were, but I certainly want to carry on doing them. I really enjoy doing them. It's really great interaction with the community. It's something I've really enjoyed, is getting to know people.
I'm really glad you started doing them. They've been actually really good fun to be a part of and also to watch.
Some of them are more controversial than others.
I find that even after 20 years in this game, I've actually learnt a lot from talking to some of your guests or listening to some of your
I've
guests.
learned tons. I mean, the one with Gaz on when we did gas blowback stuff is just
Totally changed the way I feel gas now.
absolutely blew my mind.
We've got even just in the UK, we've got a great knowledge base for airsoft. For every whatever niche in airsoft you want to pick, we have got some guys and girls who know absolutely shit tons about that particular niche, whether it be sniping. If you want to go down the more milsim route, doing patrols, whatever, or an impression, say SEAL team. Got to give a shout out to David Borealis,
your best buddy,
my best buddy. But we've got a great community, and I think
we've just been invited to Tuddenham to play at Gunman, guys.
I would love to. Tuddenham's one of my favourite sites.
I've never been.
Gunman stuff to me is the pinnacle of good fun airsoft.
Yeah.
There are many other sites just as good, but it's one of my go-to sites where I know I won't have a bad time. So I'd love to come down to Tuddenham and see what you've done.
2 words, guys. Road trip.
Road trip. Yeah, we'll get that sorted, Robbie.
Let's get it sorted.
Get that sorted.
Definitely.
Might have been overnight
Cheers,
stay
Robbie.
somewhere, but we can
Okay.
camp
Jay's
up.
just asked where we went to.
That'd be terrible if we had to do
Sorry?
that.
Jay's just asked where we went to, and if you missed the start of the stream, so.
We went to West Midlands Airsoft in the UK, the FOB. They're going to open their indoor site, High Command, soon as well. They'll be more restrictive with that because it's indoors.
Very strict 20-player cap, isn't it?
Yeah, and definitely face masks for that one. Oh, face coverings.
Yeah.
Matt Bridge says he's found this long break from airsoft gameplay to be quite refreshing. It's making him have more drive to play again. Yeah, to extent. Actually, I've kind of found that myself.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people who, let's face it, I think between the three of us, we've all been at various points along our airsoft careers gone, I just can't be arsed anymore, and want to give up.
Yeah, you go through slumps, don't you?
Yeah, I've sold literally everything, and then 6 months later, bought it all again, or sold most of my kit and just kept a couple of things. And this has been, in a way, with it being enforced, like, no, I really actually want to go and play.
Yeah,
I think that's why I did my knee in, because I literally didn't want to miss a moment of it.
No,
Dan says,
I just wanted to go and play.
Will I be at Deltas this year? Yes, absolutely.
Me too.
Wouldn't miss that for the world, Dan.
What's that one, guys?
Delta Sahud, a Gunman 1990s film sim. We need to get you down for that as well. Live your 1990s. Live your 1990s dream.
A new riff.
You might have to borrow one of my guns for that one though.
Can I have the 653, please, Tom?
No, you can have the 73. Never 77 though. Right, I think we're kind of coming to the end. A couple of guys saying thanks for the live streams. Honestly, I wouldn't have done this without. I wouldn't have had the confidence to do live streaming without the Rona. So it's been quite a strong learning curve, but I've really enjoyed it. So thanks to everybody that's been watching the stream. Obviously, thanks to my guests, Gadge and Phil. Phil, where can we find you?
You can find me normally propping up a bar with a bottle of red, but if it's not in person, I'm on Clearwater Airsoft on Facebook and Clearwater_Airsoft on Instagram.
Awesome. Gadge doesn't do that Instagram stuff.
No, but you can find me ranting on historical airsoft forums, telling people their belt buckle's wrong.
And it's the wrong colour button for 1942.
Yeah, didn't have that colour thread in the Russian.
The stitch count on that Greek webbing isn't the same as British battle dress. And the rest of it. So thanks guys, thanks for watching. I'm going to call it there. So stay safe. See you soon. Hit my Patreon if you want me to buy really cool guns. And